The jobs report just came in and it is terrible. But even though people are saying this will lead to a financial meltdown, this is actually great for strong altcoins because of how the Federal Reserve is going to react. They're going to react by lowering interest rates. And when I show you how Ethereum, Cardano, and Solana reacted in a very similar environment, even I was shocked at how much these coins pumped. Now, before we look at the charts, let's check out this jobs report. Now, we got a weak jobs report, but it cemented the case for a Federal Reserve rate cut at their upcoming meeting ending September 17th. But what happens for their October meeting is even more telling than the September meeting. We're going to look at the prediction markets in a second. The US added only 22,000 jobs in August, and this was well under forecast. And now the unemployment rate is at 4.3%, which is matching forecasts. And now investors are ramping up the wagers that the Fed will resume cutting interest rates. This is helping push stocks and risk assets to record highs. Now, looking at Poly Market, like I said, September, you can see a little bit of a change. The rate cuts were holding steady at 87% odds. We're going to get a decrease of 25 basis points. And then the jobs report hits. You can see a lot of volatility and is now settled at 88, 89%. So a little bit of change there. But if you go to the October 29th Federal Reserve meeting on whether or not they're going to cut interest rates, massive volatility after this jobs report. There was slightly higher odds that no change was going to be what happens here. It was 48% odds. It was the number one thing people were predicting. The jobs report came, big flip-flop for a 25 basis cut versus the no change. You can see, no change went from 48% all the way down to 26%. And now we have about a 2 out of 3 odds we're going to see a decrease coming up in October. But why exactly is this job report bullish for altcoins like Cardano, like Solana, like Ethereum? Because Powell now has 3 choices. The most likely choice, especially if you're looking at the prediction markets, is he's going to cut rates aggressively. He's going to cut in September. He's going to cut in October. Definitely unlikely he's going to keep the rates high. And I don't know if at this point he can cut the rates slowly. And so if he cuts aggressively, borrowing becomes cheaper. That's bad for people looking for safe returns on their assets. So if you have $1 billion and borrowing costs are high, well, you'll loan out your $1 billion because you're getting good interest. But if those interest rates lower, you're not getting good money when you loan out your $1 billion. So now you have to shift gears and look for a riskier asset to invest in or a risk-on environment. Risk-on environments are great for altcoins. But now let's talk about the similar environment that we're in, and then we'll check out the charts on these altcoins. Now, the last few times we had rate cuts December 18th, November 7th, and September 18th, 2024. So September 18th to December 18th, 2024. And that environment for cutting rates is very similar to our current environment. This is August 2024 data we're looking at now. Unemployment was also rising in August 2024, just like we're seeing in September 2025. And then if you look at the unemployment rate, August 24, this report actually is September 6, 2024, 4.2% for the unemployment rate. And the current unemployment rate, 4.3%. So unemployment's looking the same. Upcoming rate cuts looking the same. So how did altcoins perform in that environment? First chart we're going to look at is Ethereum. I've marked out September 18th to December 18th. We're doing the same for Solana, the same for Cardano. Now on Ethereum, literally on September 18th, put in a bottom, would never go that low again. It just kept rising and rising. And if we go from the 18th all the way until they cut on the 18th, of December, you're looking at a 69% pump. Now you can move it up to the wicks and say about a 75% pump. But if you look at Solana, again, a very similar situation. That was the lowest we would see Solana for that time being, and Solana would have a nice little pump of 100% over the next 2 months. If you go to Cardano, it's the most bullish of them all. Cardano did range for a while, but then shortly thereafter, it would outpump all those other assets and it would pump 300%. Remind you, that's a 4x. And if you want a little bit more hopium, this is the others Bitcoin chart. This is looking at all the crypto assets outside of the top 10. And we're comparing it to Bitcoin. And it looks like these altcoins are due to rise against Bitcoin. We just flashed a golden cross. Now you'll see a golden cross right here, but to me, this is an outlier. This is the inverse COVID crash. This is the Trump pump. You'll see that we kind of broke the moving averages and then came back to the mean. If you come back to March 2020, it looks basically literally the same, only inverse there. So I wouldn't look too much at that golden cross. I would pay attention to the golden cross at the start of that cycle. So we go back, remove that little crash. Here is another golden cross. Altcoins would then go on a mega rally versus Bitcoin. The altcoins outside of the top 10 average a 200% pump against BTC. So with these rate cuts, I will expect a little bit of volatility, a short-term volatility for sure, but long-term, it definitely looks like this is going to be an aggressive rate cutting environment. And if you look at the past, aggressive rate cutting environments are great for the top altcoins. So I'm DZ for Discover Crypto. Hopefully I'll see you with your strong alts at the top.